Okay, the stream is active now, so we're good to go.
Great. Dr. Beckwith, I have 6:30 and Ms. Morreal just joined us, so whenever you're ready.
Okay, is Dr. Spurgeon on?
Let me check. Not yet.
Okay, but we will start at 6:30. We do have a quorum. Board members may have approval of the agenda. They're muted.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and second. We're ready for the question. Hearing none. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. So ordered. We'll go to our first discussion item, which will later, next Tuesday, be an action item, 2021-2022 tax rate hearing. Dr. Singleton.
Good evening, Dr. Beckwith, Mrs. Oswald, Ms. Morreal, the Special Administrative Board, Dr. Spurgeon, colleagues, and community. Tonight, we will bring you information for discussion on the 2021-2022 tax rates. And I will share my screen. Okay, so this is our tax rate hearing, September 23rd, 2021. I'm the Chief Financial Officer, Dr. Levy Singleton. The Special Administrative Board, in regards to the tax levy, is considered a political subdivision, and they are authorized to set tax levies. Tax levies are set on an annual basis. And all tax rates have to be submitted to the state auditor by October the 1st of each year for certification. So this is an annual thing that we must do in order to adopt a tax rate. Some basic components of the tax rate, obviously, we look at prior year revenue, and we look at any allowances for growth using what we consider or refer to as the CPI growth. In addition, we look at current year assessed valuations, plus any allowances for new construction. And then we also have to be concerned with our debt service fund requirements. Our tax levy allows us to levy enough to pay all of our principal and interest payments on any outstanding bond issues that we may have. The next slide here talks about a maximum authorized levy based on the 1984 rate or the most recent voter approved rate. And in our situation, we do have a most recent voter approved rate that we're going to speak about here very shortly. A district may voluntarily roll back some of the tax rate to collect less than the calculated ceiling. So at any point, our district could adopt a levy that is less than the maximum authorized levy for the school district. And so that certainly is a priority of the Special Administrative Board as well. What we have to do basically is look at the tax levy by different classes of property. We know that in our boundaries, we have comprised of mostly residential. I mean, that's where we get the bulk of our revenues from, or our taxpayers, our residential homes. We've got very little agricultural and very little commercial business. And then we also have personal property taxes that our district we allocate for as well. And then we look at a blended basis. Now, this blended basis is basically used for state reporting purposes. So there is a blended rate that the Special Administrative Board will be asked to adopt related to the tax levy as well. So some assessment information, and I'd like to share some good news because this was a reassessment year. Every other year is a reassessment year. Every odd year in St. Louis County. And so what we're seeing tonight is growth in all of the classes of property that we mentioned, okay? The first line going across looks at prior year. So in 2020, residential, and these are our assessment values. And what the assessment valuation is is a sum of all of the property values within the taxing district, okay, or within the school district boundaries. So residential for 2020, that number was about 149,416,550. If we look in the sales right underneath, we see that the current year assessments are right at $166,314,170. Now that variance shows a positive growth of more than $16 million. And so we are seeing 11.3% change here, okay? This is outstanding news for our residents. It means that they are living in homes that have increased in value. And we know when homes increase in value, those are good things for our school district. We collect more in terms of the residential property taxes, but our homeowners can also be proud as well at the fact that their homes are worth more than they have been in the past. In the agricultural column, 2020, again, I spoke earlier that agricultural is a very small bucket of money, if you will, $9,260 last year. In our current year, that came in at about $11,710. But we saw growth. And so that's really the message tonight, is that there's growth within the boundaries of the Riverview Garden School District, 26.5%. On the commercial side, again, commercial is another bigger entity, if you will, $28,357,090 last year. We're seeing a little bit of growth this year, about 6.1%, to the tune of $30,077,170. And that's a positive $1.7 million variance. Also in personal property, last year we were looking at about 36.2 million. And so this current year, we're looking at almost $41 million. So just about $540 shy of $41 million in personal property values, which again is a variance, a positive variance, and some, again, growth of about 13% over the previous year. Our total valuations, if you will, on the far right column, last year we were looking at roughly about $214 million in assessment values. And this year we're looking at over $237 million. Let me make sure I'm getting my suffixes right. That was 214 million. And this is $237 million as well, almost 11% growth. And so that is awesome news. That's good news because once again, it means that there is some increased values in our school district. And that's also good news for the school district as well, because we get to tax based on those valuation numbers. The next slide here talks about the rate ceilings. Again, I mentioned earlier that we are only allowed to levy up to a ceiling, okay? We cannot go to the taxpayers and levy all of the needs of the school district. That is by law not possible. We've talked about the Hancock Amendment and all of those. There are limitations in place on what you can levy. And so we see here in this particular slide where we have ceilings. And so on the residential front, we've got a ceiling of $5.7955. On the commercial front, that's $6. Operating levy, again, same rates, $5.7955 and $6 operating rate. Our debt service levy, the $1.7756 in both residential and commercial. And let me remind the constituents was that we did and we continue to honor the no tax rate increase on the debt service levy, okay? We passed a no tax rate increase a few years ago. I believe it was in 2018. And we have held that promise, and we're going to continue to hold that promise in the debt service levy. I want to make sure that we're very clear that that promise was made in the debt service levy. And that does allow us to levy enough money to pay the principal and interest on our bonds that are outstanding. So our total tax levy ceilings, which says we cannot levy more than what's been approved, and that's the $7.5711 in residential and also 7.7756. Those are the rates in the commercial. Also, I mentioned to you earlier that we must adopt a blended rate. And again, this is really for state reporting purposes. And that blended rate is basically a composition of all of those rates and all of those classes. What is the blended rate that would allow you to levy the same number of dollars, if you will, per category or per class? And so that blended rate that we're recommending is that $5.81, that 5.8166. Again, that debt service, no tax rate increase, 1.7756, and the total blended tax rate of $7.5922 is the total blended tax rate. Just some other information. Again, at this point, our district is levying up to its maximum potential, unless we obviously go out for some other referendum or a bond issue, then we don't have the abilities to claim any additional dollars beyond our maximum authorized rate. I did want to take a moment and mention Proposition E, because I'm so proud of the work that we did in Proposition E. And I wanted to point out what Proposition E did for the school district. When we were out there several months ago, the first quarter of this year, we were telling people about the good things that Proposition E would do and the resources that it would bring. And I am very proud to say that Proposition E, with the passage of it, will bring an additional 3.8, almost $3.9 million to our school district. And that is money that we did not see last year. But as a result of Proposition E, that's money that comes to the school districts that we're able to keep those promises of increasing transportation efforts and overhauling some of our curriculum concerns and advancing our salary schedule. So those are things and promises that we made as a result of Proposition E, but I wanted to single-handedly point out the impact of Proposition E, which has given our district, depending on how the collections go, and that's another thing in Riverview Garden School District that we are very proud of, is that our collection rate in the school district has been consistently above 97% collection. And that is something to be very proud of. It says that our residents pay their taxes and they pay them on time as well. So that is something to be very proud of in Riverview Garden School District. What I'd like to show is just basically the monies that we are anticipating receiving from the tax levy. Again, what we do is we look at assessed valuation. That's that $237 million number. And we look at that blended rate that we talked about, okay? There are two categories, the incidental fund, which is our general fund, and also our debt services. Those are the two funds that we levy, and we receive levy funds from. And so if we collect 100% of revenues for the incidental fund, or the general fund, we're looking at collecting about $13.8 million this year in revenue. If we are true to about that 97.6% collections, then it's about $13.4 million that you see at the bottom of the screen here. Also, in the debt services levy, again, take assessed valuation, divide it by 100, multiply it by the actual levy, which is that $1.77. And we're anticipating about $4 million if we collect it, 4.2 million if we collect 100%, and $97.6 million, I'm sorry, $4.1 million if we collect about 96%. So that bottom, that far right column here that talks about the assessed valuation and actual levies here, that's a combination of those two. And so our district, as a result of these two levies, debt service and incidental fund, could expect to receive somewhere between 17 and 18 million dollars through the tax levy. Okay. And again, the school district, the special administrative board does have the power, if that is the will of the special administrative board, to roll back any kind of tax rate if that becomes a concern or an issue for the school system. The last couple of slides here will just kind of give you some comparison data over the last year and this year. And so if we look at the last year versus this year levy rates, let me just shrink this a little bit. We see that over last year, over 2020 versus 2021, the only thing that we levied additional was that $1.65. And that was the magical number that Proposition E allowed us to do. Prop E said that the school district was trying to authorize an additional $1.65. It passed by a super majority. More than 68% of our voters approved this. And so, again, our district, the recommendation is to levy that additional $1.65 over last year in all of those categories, okay? And so we see the information there, and the blended rate information is there as well. From 2020 over 2021, we see those blended rates and those total rate numbers, which are there as well, okay? And again, none of this is final until it's certified by the Missouri State Auditor. So once we adopt this at our board meeting on Tuesday, then we certainly still have to send this information through the Missouri State Auditor for certification as well. Just a couple more slides and I will be out of your way. The classes of property, if we want to know exactly where the money comes from, this really gives you an idea of how assessed valuation affects our community. And so of the $237 million that we collect, this is where it comes from. About 166 million of that comes from residential property. $30 million of that comes from commercial, and about $11,000, very small amount of money comes from agricultural, but we also get a substantial amount of money from personal property taxes, okay? So these are the adjusted levies here. They include the debt service levy. So that's why you see those numbers are over $6. The levies, the property classes that are the $5 and something, we get to the $757 and the $777 by adding in the debt service portion. And so these are the anticipated levy amounts, again, based on the collection rates and so forth. And again, I mentioned earlier that our school district has done an outstanding job, and our constituents and taxpayers have done a marvelous job of making sure that they pay their taxes. This is my last slide, and I will entertain questions, but the recommendation for motions, or the recommended motions, will be at the next meeting to approve the tax rates by the classifications of property. That is residential, agricultural, commercial, and personal property. To approve a blended tax rate, we mentioned that that is simply for state reporting purposes. DESE would like to see that rate, that blended rate, and all final approvals for our tax rate will occur at the September the 28th regular SAB meeting. That concludes my presentation. Are there any questions for me at this time?
Ms. Oswald?
I have no questions right now.
Ms. Mario?
Just curious, Levon, the figures that you have, when they come in, are they based on like the municipalities, or they just send you one lump sum?
Be more specific with that question, Ms.
Okay,
Marl
so
Real.
for example, when they send you the information that you're receiving for residential properties or personal properties, do they break it down to where they say, okay, this is how much we got from Dalewood, this is how much we got from Bell Fountain, this is how much we got from Moline Acres, what have you? I was just curious.
Right. No. So since what we receive that information in a lump sum, and it's labeled Riverview Garden School District.
Okay.
So we don't know the individual tax implications of the various municipalities. That's a good question, Ms. Marl. I'll ask if that data is available to be viewed that way. And if it is, I'll certainly get that information over to you. But
Okay.
the way it comes to us, it's just all of the taxing entities within our boundaries, and there's no distinction between which municipality does what.
Okay, and then there's some information that I had. I'm waiting to get it confirmed, but I was told that St. Louis County was going to do something about the people that are, like people are driving around with on their cars with outdated, well, they haven't paid their taxes or what have you. And I had heard something about St. Louis County possibly doing something about that, considering that some people got, that stimulus money and what have you, that they were going to, and I was just wondering, that would also, if that does take place, that would help us significantly as well.
Sure. Any monies that are owed, again, personal property, residential properties, any of those monies, we get sales taxes through Proposition C. All of those monies go towards the school districts and its advancements. And so absolutely any assessment that we benefit from, we certainly want to make sure that we get what we're entitled to. So yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Marl.
Okay,
Ms. Marl, you are correct. I believe it may be cheaper to tag your car in Illinois than it is in Missouri. So we have a number of residents who tag their cars in Illinois and never change it over to Missouri.
Right. But I had heard that they were going to try to do something about these people that are still riding around on those tags, some kind of way that they were going to tax them and then add a penalty on it or something because of the stimulus money that was passed out. I'm just waiting to get more of that confirmed though.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Dr. Singleton, remind those who are listening or viewing when this new tax rate money begins to come in.
Yes, sir. Dr. Beckwith, thank you for that question. So tax revenues, generally what happens is we approve the rates and they have to be certified before October, but this money starts to trickle into the school district generally around the December timeframe, okay? And that's generally when most of us pay our tax bills around that December timeframe. And so in December and January and February, we will start to see those monies come into the school districts. We've not seen any of that just yet, but we generally start to see this towards those winter months, starting in December, and it could go, as late as June, if there are some late property tax payers as well, and we still get those funds.
The other is just asking me for a reminder. Are all four of these tax rate charged at the same percentage, or they're different for agriculture and commercial?
Yeah, so the rates are different, and also the percentages that they assess are different.
And that's what I was asking, the percentage.
Yes, sir. Those are different, Dr. Beckwith. I believe 19 cents. 19 cents is the residential taxing rate. So they would look at the value divided by 100, multiplied by 19 cents for residential property. I think commercial property is around 30 something cents. I don't have those numbers in front of me, but to answer your question, they are taxed. Those percentages are different for each of those classifications.
Other comments or questions? Thank you.
I have one, Dr. Beckwith, I have one question.
Yes,
Dr.
sure.
Singleton, if you would go back to slide number 9. As Dr. Singleton and I went through this, if you'll go down, maybe it's slide 10, probably slide 10. So that 13.808754.40. Now I know at the district level, we only budgeted 11.5. And so this is a $2 million increase over what we actually budgeted. So at some point in time, will we need to revise our budget to reflect the new numbers versus 11.5 and insert the 13.4 to reflect the actual numbers once this is certified?
Is that a question for me, Dr. Spurgeon?
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, at some point, we do need to have a conversation when we realize the actual monies that come in, but it all depends on those collection rates and everything. And so one of the things that I discussed with Dr. Spurgeon in our meeting yesterday was, it is wise to probably do an amended budget towards the end of the school year. That way you really see all of the monies that really actually came in and can give a real good picture of how the school district would end the fiscal year. So at some point, I think we do need to address the budgeted rate versus what we actually anticipate. But sometimes it's not good to count your chickens before they hatch, because we certainly, while we're entitled to that $13.8 million, we're hopeful that we continue the same collection patterns that we have in the past. So, but yeah, Dr. Spurgeon, you are right. At some point, we are probably to the positive in what we had anticipated or what we budgeted.
Yeah, because you're talking about just under $2 million up to $2.3 million to the positive than what we've actually budgeted at 11.5. So that's a couple $1 million for sure.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll now go to our next two discussion items. First, the contract with LDR to provide bookkeeping accounting services as a result of the resignation of Ms. Quaylen. Is that you, Dr. Singleton?
Yes, it is, Dr. Beckwith, and I will speak on this item. As you know, our bookkeeper did tender her resignation about a week ago. Our bookkeeper is a very hard worker, and it's sad to see her go. But we know that there are a number of other school districts out there who are paying a little bit more than our school district. And so after conversing with her, it was a financial gain for her, something to the tune of $12,000 to $13,000. And so, it's some decisions you really, you hate to see people go, but you certainly support people who can do better for themselves. With that being said, the bookkeeper vacancy, there will be a vacancy as of next week, and we need assistance. As you know, we are already down a payroll administrator, and we're working on those interviews at this time. And we're also down a director of federal programs, all in the finance area. So I have consulted with Dr. Bill Ribori, who is one of the managing partners with LDR. And we actually received, and I shared the resume of a candidate for bookkeeping services with the Special Administrative Board. Looking for your feedback. That candidate did come in the office today to meet the staff. Of course, he did not start working before we could get this approved, but he did come in today to meet, and seems like a very bright individual. In fact, his most recent position was that in the private sector as a chief financial officer. So these, the bookkeeping, accounts payable portions of his responsibilities, I think he's well aware of and will be a vital asset to our school district. So I am requesting, first of all, we are requesting a supplement, which is embedded within this request for about $30,000, not to exceed. This particular person, I believe the hourly rates we were given were somewhere between $54 and $75 an hour. It is a lot of money, but when you consider that there are no benefits being paid, this is an hourly rate. It is a competitive rate as well. So we are asking the Special Administrative Board to approve a contract with LDR Administrative Services, LLC, to provide bookkeeping and accounts payable support for the finance team at a cost not to exceed $30,000. And let me say this also, because I put this in the board docs justification because we are in an emergency situation. Okay. I really wish we had the time to consult other companies, to do our homework, but the skill set that is needed and the potential interruption that could be caused by this position vacancy is just too detrimental for us to endure. So I am asking the board to consider the policy that allows us to avoid the competitive bidding in an emergency situation. We want this person in here immediately so that they can start training and provide and prevent or minimize any serious disruptions in services. So that is my request. Are there any questions for me at this time?
Ms. Morrow,
I have no questions.
Ms. Oswald.
What period of time does this $30,000 cover?
Ms. Oswald, I did some calculation. We're looking at possibly up to 3 months. But again, we're going to get right on interviewing and hopefully hiring someone soon. We can't do anything until her resignation is accepted, and then we can start posting the position, and then we can start interviewing. But that $30,000 will roughly carry us through the end of December.
Ms. Oswald asked my question, so I'm glad to hear the response. What's the pay rate or the salary for our previous bookkeeper, or normally for, I won't name a particular person,
Sure.
but
Sure.
what does a bookkeeper, what's the range normally?
I think on an hourly basis, Dr. Beckwith, that position would probably come in somewhere between, $25 to $30 an hour, say. And this is an hourly position. This is not an annual position. The bookkeeper does get paid an hourly rate, and I think that rate is somewhere between $25 to $27 an hour, something in that ballpark.
And so did I hear you say we're paying $50 an hour for this?
Actually, I believe the bill rate, the range that I was given was about $54 up to $75. I did speak with Dr. Ribori today, and I believe the final rate, if we take the candidate that he's proposing, will come in somewhere around $68 an hour, 68. And again, that does not include any benefits. The bookkeeper's normal rate is about $25, $26, $27 an hour, but that does include an additional, up to $7,000 to $10,000 worth of board pay benefits as well. So, but that, to answer your question, I believe the bill rate for the contractual person is right at about $68 an hour.
So we are going to advertise promptly once the board approves for this temporary service.
Yes, sir. Absolutely, Dr. Beckwith. In fact, I was given the job description to look over today. I plan on looking over that and sending it back to Human Resources. And so after Tuesday's regular board meeting, we plan on immediately posting that position as early as Wednesday morning.
Well, I'm looking, we have 2 action items. Isn't this one of the action items tonight?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
But this allows us to move forward with the services, but we have not accepted the bookkeeper's resignation.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I understand.
Okay.
I understand. And I'm assuming, well, I know the rate is that high because you're not only paying for the contracted bookkeeper, but you're also paying for the services of the company. Am I correct?
You're paying the overhead. Yes, sir, Dr. Beckwith.
Okay.
So that hourly rate is it's a nice rate, but keep in mind you're paying for not only the person, but you're paying for the overhead that it costs to get the person here. Yes, sir.
No other questions. Let's go to.
Dr. Beckwith, I did just think of a question that I wanted to ask. Is this person going to be experienced in the software that the software that we use in finance? Will they have to be trained, a lot of training?
Yeah, so good question, Ms. Morrow. And to be honest with you, it's very hard to find someone that has the experience in our particular software. Let me remind you that we're still using Keystone for payroll, but we use the new software system, Munis, and we're all new to Munis. Munis is a Tyler University product that none of us have had experience with. And so this particular individual, when I met with him this afternoon, he does not have experience with this software, but I am of the belief that, a number of these software applications do the same thing. It's the same basic functions. And as long as he can master the tasks of, creating invoices and knowing what the chart of accounts are, which line items to charge these expenditures to, then I think that he will work out to be fine. He will be trained internally by a number of us that are here. But to answer your question, this individual does not have Munis software experience.
Let's then go to Maxim Educational Services MOU. I think that's you, Ms. Williams.
No, Dr. Beckwith, that's me.
Oh, I'm
Tanya
sorry.
Patton. That's okay.
Dr. Patton.
That's okay. Good evening, SAB members, Dr. Spurgeon, colleagues, and stakeholders. Tonight, I bring before you a discussion and action, an MOU with Maxim Educational Services for the purposes of providing nurses to Riverview Gardens School District. In the past, we have used supplemental health care. Recently, I received an email from supplemental health care saying that they were having difficulty finding nurses. There is a nursing shortage, as well as a teacher shortage, a school bus driver shortage. So I then sought out other organizations that can provide nurses to us. And Maxim Educational Services say they can provide licensed nurses, both LPNs and registered nurses to us. We currently have a couple of schools that need nurses. One would be Westview Middle School, Moline Elementary School, as well as the high school needing an additional nurse. This MOU will impact our budget, but this money is already allocated for health services for supplemental health care. It would just be a shared line item. This MOU is currently pending legal review. But however, when we get it back from our legal department, or actually their legal department, I would like to move on it, especially in the face of this pandemic, getting those schools covered. It is recommended that the SAB approve the MOU with Maxim Health Educational Services to provide nurses with our open positions within our school district. Are there any questions?
Ms. Morrow Neal. Sorry.
That's okay. The amount is a little bit too little for me to see. What is the dollar amount?
So, Ms. Morrow, we have allocated $353,079. That was for supplemental, but supplemental bills us per nurse. So it's when the nurse actually works. So I approved their timesheet. So since they are supposed to be providing 4 nurses to us, currently we only have 2. So we are looking to bring in a couple of more nurses to cover our schools. So the money that we're using to pay Maxim will come from this line item that was originally for supplemental, but again, they bill us based on hours worked.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Oswald.
No question.
Dr. Patton, how were you able to find this firm?
Well, actually, I reached out to Monica Williams. I asked her who her previous school district used, and Monica told me about Maxim Educational Services.
Okay. Ms. Williams, are you on? My question is, I notice it's educational services, so I'm assuming they do work other than provide for healthcare workers?
Yeah, so when yes, sir, when I look at the services they provide, it was healthcare workers, it was counselors, social workers, OT, PT, therapists. So it seems to center around the education, school education, but they're just not a healthcare organization.
Okay.
Yes, Dr. Beckwith, I'm here. I was having trouble unmuting.
Yes, you recommended this firm. What other kind of educational services do they provide? I've heard some from Dr. Patton.
Those are the services that they provide. However, when I was with the Ridner School District, we only used them for nurses.
Okay, thank you. I have no other questions. We'll now go to our action items. First, the professional services agreement for LDR LLC. That is, I think, to extend a personnel evaluation. Am I correct? Investigation. Am I correct, Dr. Spurgeon?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay,
An additional 20 hours.
okay. May I have a motion for approval?
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
Moved and second. We're ready for the question. Are there any? Hearing none. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. The second one is for the bookkeeper from the same agency. May I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and second. We're ready for the question. Are there any? Hearing none. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion passes. And our last item, you just heard Dr. Patton with Maxim Educational Services. May I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is
Second.
there a second? Moved and second. We're ready for the question. Hearing none. All in favor, aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. That concludes our business for this evening. May I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and second. We're ready for the question. Hearing none. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion passes and we are adjourned. Have a pleasant rest of the evening.
Thank you.